I was thinking if it's a presentation, do you guys want to take a seat right up here with us? Sure. Might as well get comfy. I'm not sure how long the presentation is, but... So we're going to move on to our next item, 6.7 or 9:10 a.m., consideration of presentation of the American Red Cross Community Adaptation Program. And Supervisor Pyska, do you want to introduce the item?
Sure. We were just talking a little bit about it. This is the proactive team that we've been selected for, and I think you have more of the details, so why don't you just take it from there?
All right. Check. So thanks for having us today. This is a great opportunity for us to kind of chat about, since our team started in July of 2022, to kind of go over a little bit of the selection process and why Lake County was selected for this program, and then how our work has translated into action in Lake County. So we'll start off by introducing ourselves, as again, we've kind of done it back to back here now, but my name's Nick Widmer. I'm our manager for our community adaptation program here in Lake County. Sitting next to me is Gabby Perez, who's one of our coordinators, and then we have Pastor Shannon Kimball, who is our second coordinator, who is unfortunately sick today, but I'm sure most of you know her. So again, our team started back in July of 2022 to really highlight this fact here. So as seen by the slide, last year in 2023, there were $38 billion disasters across the United States. And the Red Cross has been involved in responding to these disasters for 100 years at this point. And what we're seeing is more of a continuous response model for our organization, rather than the trucks, the airplanes, everything. We're facilitating moving all of these resources to each individual disaster. How can we be more proactive for those communities to respond and be more resilient in times of disasters, so that not just the American Red Cross response burden is lessened, but overall, all of the community organizations that we alluded to earlier that are coming into these communities to support them in their times of need, how can we raise that degree of resilience for those communities so that the organizations they're helping the community as opposed to taking over those responses just themselves. So we do that by really highlighting these two outcomes. So our program boils down to this, and it really comes out of an idea that really came about. It started with the Valley Fire here, and then began and was kind of incubated in Northern California specifically when we had these devastating wildfires and people sought shelter. That when the Red Cross, we do sheltering very well, and that's our thing. And as soon as that person steps out the door, how do we know that they're onto a better recovery system, that they're onto something better that next day, that the devastation of evacuation didn't hinder their recovery process long term? And so that idea then formulated into our program, the Community Adaptation Program. And these are our two outcomes. This is the lens in which we do our work through. So outcome number one is increase the number of families who can safely stay at home, improve the conditions for those who are forced from their homes, and accelerate access to healthy and stable living environments. So I call this one, this is our evacuation side of things. So this is the vulnerability part of it. Is what are the factors that somebody, let's say that they are not in an evacuation zone necessarily, but they don't have their power on. They aren't able to access some of the systems that they've been relying on for a long time. So in those times we wouldn't call it necessarily a declared evacuation disaster, but it's a disaster for that individual, right? If they aren't able to rely on that system. So in our outcome number one objectives, we really do take a look at what are those systems, how can we strengthen those systems, and how do we support those partners that are interacting in that system to make sure that they're able to provide those services in times where that system is stressed. And then outcome number two is really reduce the number of families that fall into poverty after being forced from their homes by extreme weather. This is more to that ultimate fact or that ultimate story of how do we know that they're on to a better tomorrow the moment they step out of that door. And so outcome number two is really all about when we frame our social service system in the context of disaster, of evacuation, of Valley Fire, of Rocky Fire, of these kind of things that Lake County is very familiar with. how do we take a look at what is the system that those individuals fall back into? How can we make sure that they're lifted up through that system and don't fall down deeper into whatever was ailing them or affecting them before that time of disaster? So how do we do that? That's a great question. I think a lot of our supervisors here have worked with us on different projects, and they each look different. You know, they have a different lens, they have a different goal every time, but they all reach back to those two outcomes. And so our program is blessed to have 7 different tactics that we can really rely on. 2 of them are similar, and that's really about bringing subject matter expertise into the county, to our partners. We'll hear about from one of our partners here a little later that was able to utilize some of that subject matter expertise. We're able to provide Red Cross training. So over the past couple weeks and over the next few weeks, we've provided 4 CPR and AED trainings around the county, and then paired that with a bilingual AED unit for those locations. And these are co-located with our Resilient Hub locations that the county sustainability has been working on. And our volunteer exchange. This is something that really gets to that point of community first and not flying in Red Cross volunteers or flying in volunteers from anywhere else. It's really how can we make volunteerism a key factor in our communities so that in times of disaster that it's not just that the willingness is more there, it's that how can we harness that? How is our system designed so that we can take in everybody that wants to help and utilize them effectively? Data sharing and analysis. This is something that, Bruno alluded to this earlier, that the Red Cross has a lot of things we don't necessarily reach out and shout and say that we don't get commended on all the time. And one of those things is the data that we're able to take in, that we're able to share, that we're able to utilize to help us achieve some of these goals of community resilience. And so we're able to take some of that information and give it back to our partners and help them write grants, help them report out on some of their statistics that they might need. And then the last 2 have to do with monetary resources. So direct procurement of equipment. We just provided a generator up to the Little Red Schoolhouse on Cobb. And that was something that we really identified it as a very easy fix for a very specific need. And it was very easily defended as a great option for that community to have somewhere that had resilient power. And then the last one is providing monetary grants. Our program, I don't think should be defined as a monetary program by any means. We're not just a funder. It's really about the collaboration and then utilizing these resources to help those partners to achieve their goals. And so I'll pass it off to Gabby here to talk about some of our partnerships.
And hello everyone, my name is Gabriela Perez. I go by Gabby because I'm not in trouble all the time. And this is the slide that I would like to end with because collaboration and coalitions is what we are all about. And we are very proud to say and honored to be a part of this groups of folks that have been very kind with us, just letting us kind of support them and help them throughout. Not saying that these groups weren't here before by any means, and that's why we are here, because we want to enhance this response. Not one agency has all the answers, and we are very aware of that, and we recognize that it's the community and the day-to-day responding to this continuous activities, right, that are happening, like home fires, but also the wildfires, right, and things like that. So this is what is going to make us stronger, and this is where we are putting all our efforts into. So we are very, very proud to be a part of other ones that we have not mentioned here, such as the Food Policy Council, for example, that I am very honored to be a part of. Thank you so much. And others like the Lake County Community Foundation, right? That is we're really excited to see them begin and hopefully thrive soon enough. But it takes time and it takes a village, it takes a community, right? And that's what we are here for, to support Lake County. So thank you very much for your time and all your support.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Supervisor Pyska?
And can you talk a little bit about this program nationally, like why were we chosen, what other regions were chosen, the time frame, and the investment?
Sure. So there were originally 8 locations chosen across the United States, and really the big defining factors were risk for disaster, and that's not any particular disaster by any means. The original 8 were us and Butte County in California, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, Mississippi County, Arkansas. I'm going to forget them. But they're all over the nation. That was the big thing, is that we wanted to make sure that when this program was new and being piloted, that it was able to be effective across localities, across different risk factors. So there was that risk factor, and then there was a socioeconomic vulnerability, social vulnerability score. And social vulnerability really ties down into that objective number 2, or outcome number 2, that people that are affected by disaster aren't falling either further into poverty or into poverty because of evacuation. So those two factors combined, and then also trying to merge that with different Red Cross regions across the United States. So we are now up to 15 active teams across the United States, and we have 3 more being actively recruited, 1 more being in California, and that's Monterey County, California. And then the other one in California is Tulare County.
3 years? Or 5 years?
So our team will be here. So it's going to be a permanent fixture of the American Red Cross's service systems to our community. The only thing that was tied up was the monetary grants, and the funding allocations had a 2-year funding period, initial funding period. And so we're still kind of working out what the long-term funding options are going to be, and how much, and how do you go through all that kind of stuff. But our team will be here in some form or another. This program will live on, but that funding source will change, or the amount, or how we go about it.
Okay, great. And I think it's important to recognize that, once again, our county's been chosen to pilot something, not just from the state, but on a national approach to climate resiliency. And that's really what this program is. We know that we have a very strong volunteer base. We've talked about that all throughout the morning with our different proclamations. That truly is our strength. And I really want to think that that's also why we were chosen, because we have the ability to really carry on this work and provide results and activate. So I'm just really grateful that you two are here today, and I wish Shannon was feeling better and she could be here too. I know this work is really important to her too.
I know that she is not on Zoom either, so unfortunately she is missed. Any Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I'm channeling my inner Pastor Shannon too. So there were some acronyms out there, so I appreciate it does take a village. There's a lot of spokes in this wheel, but one of those was COAD. So if you could just give us the 30-second elevator speech about that, if only because I get the emails. There's a lot of community planning going on with that, but I'll confess, I'm not totally self-aware of what's going on with that. So can you just give us a little shout out to COAD?
Sure. I think the biggest highlight that we have is that the COAD has existed in some form or another since the Valley Fire. It's taken a bunch of different forms, and really in 2018, I think it kind of came together. And then it's...
Can we start with the name of...
Sorry, the Community Organizations Active in Disaster, COAD.
Thank you.
And that group has really taken on a new life over the last couple of years. And, our team is active in supporting them. It's not a Red Cross run or led organization. We're just there to help support it with administrative support. And really where we come into that is the goal of the COAD is to get all of our community organizations that are active in disaster together, so that, again, we're not exchanging business cards in times of disaster, so that they can build networks, they can build phone a friends, they can understand where like-minded organizations have collaborative opportunities. And they are sectioned out into different work groups so that those like-minded organizations can start thinking about how those services are implemented during times of disaster.
Well, I just want to add, Supervisor Green, COADs and all of this proactive work has to happen during blue skies time. And in 2015, that was not a blue sky time, but that was when we had a real need for this. And we realized that COADs have been developed in other places around the county, or not around the county, around the state and around the country. So that was one of the goals, but we were not in blue skies time for several years. It was really difficult to build that organization, and we've luckily had some time. And then also we have this administrative support, which was also kind of the missing link of bringing the people together and making sure that the meetings can be productive and ongoing, and all the partners can come together and do that planning ahead of time so that when disaster does strike, everybody has a clear understanding of their role and their responsibility and how they fit in the network together.
Any other comments or
Thank you.
questions? Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, you did a great job explaining that, Jessica, because it was a big conversation when we were forming Team Lake County after the disaster, and we were meeting. So getting the COAD together now in the direction it's moving, seeing its growth and opportunity. We've had many discussions at the Risk Reduction Authority and just trying to figure out the way that we were going to move forward. So glad that it is where it is right now, and just help continue and move that forward, I think is going to be a great thing the next time something does happen. So being prepared in that time is really good. And you explained it very well on the blue skies, doing it now, just as donating for Red Cross, if that's what you choose to do, is the time is now so that we're prepared for more disasters as they come. All right.
All right. I will add that what I appreciate is that Red Cross is not trying to create new institutions or new facilities that they own that we become dependent on for resiliency. You're working with us to create our own resiliency internally so that we don't have to rely on you on emergencies, because we do rely on you and many others during our emergencies. And so this idea of reducing the need and empowering our community, those are all nothing but bonuses to me. And so let's keep working on that. I know I appreciate the relationship that we've created between myself and Gabby because of the Food Policy Council. It's been exciting, every single conversation. Red Cross is definitely in the position to help and create things that we can own, that we can manage, that we can take on ourselves. And that's exactly what we want to do, is empower our community. And so very much appreciate the both of you and what you're doing for so many different aspects of how you're helping the community. So thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you both for your hard work and your team as well. If there's nothing further from board members or our presenters, let's open it up for public comment or questions. Please come on up.
I'm Elizabeth Larson. I'm speaking to you today in my guise as the clerk of the session of Kelseyville Presbyterian Church. And I wanted to speak about, you've seen it on paper, but I want to tell you about the real world experience with these folks. They've been amazing. Nick and Gabby and Shannon. This is a real gift to our community. I'm so glad to hear that it's going to stay here in one form or another. Kelseyville Presbyterian Church was founded in 1872, and we've been doing service since then. And when we celebrated our 150th 2 years ago, we were looking at how do we expand. Resilience for us feels like the gospel message anyway, so how do we do this more? Started talking to Shannon, started talking to them, realized there was a fit. We have 6 acres and 14,000 square feet of space in downtown Kelseyville that we can put to work for the community. So that's what we're doing. They did a Red Cross training with us last week. I think a county employee came over to join us. They've provided us with AEDs, which again, they trained us on last week. They're helping us with solar. They hosted us on the tour of Tuolumne County's center in August. Gabby sat with me and held my hand through a 50-page application packet to work on things to expand our food pantry. Because our pantry has received a state grant to expand, and we know that the need is out there. So I just want to recognize them. They are really doing fantastic work. And they sit down with you and they explain things, and they give you the larger vision. It feels really good to plug in to something bigger and not reinvent the wheel. And just like our little partners over at Galilee Lutheran that are doing something much smaller, but no less important, because their community is very isolated in the case of a disaster sitting there on the side of Mount Canocti. And so it's great they basically took all this energy and harnessed it and clicked it in. And so it can last for the future. It can last. We can stand on our own feet and know what we need. And then we can be on call for you guys anytime you need us. So thank you guys for everything you've done.
Thank you for your comment. Any further public comments on this item? I see nothing in the chamber and no hands up in Zoom. And if there's nothing further from our supervisors, then thank you very much for your presentation, and looking forward to the continued work in the community.
Thank you all.
Thank you both.